Right now on Brookland News Live, the latest out of Caracas, Venezuela after those two back-to-back earthquakes. We have everything you need to know. Plus, the latest on the war in Iran as we have now entered Strait Talk. What's going on with the Strait of Hormuz? Is our boats really traveling through the area? All as we're just getting news that Israel and Lebanon have signed a framework agreement with the U.S. in what is being defined as the quote first step toward peace between the two. And Leon Black testifies on Capitol Hill today. Lawmakers already issuing subpoenas. It all has to do with the Epstein relation that he had. We're going to bring you the latest on that, all coming up on this edition of Brookland News Live.
It's time for all the news you need and more. Brookland News Live starts right now.
And it is good to be with you on this Friday. It is 2:02 p.m. here in Brooklyn. Again, it's 12:02 on the West Coast and 3:02 on the East. We do begin with several developing stories, but a big breaking story that broke moments ago. I'm Jackson Mitchell. It's Friday, June 26th. 2026. We are days away from July, and just moments ago from the State Department, Israel and Lebanon signed a framework agreement. This is just into us again moments ago. We are getting this video in for you. We just believe we just got to edit it for you and are now able to show you. This is Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, speaking. You'll see in front of him representatives for both the United States, Israel, and Lebanon, all three there. What is so notable about this is Lebanon and Israel's continuing war has been what has been an obvious breaking point from Iran, and the reason they have oftentimes said, well, we are not going to make an agreement with the United States until Israel stops firing on Lebanon. Let's take a listen here. Again, this is just in, and it's breaking right now. Let's take a listen.
It's a good day in that we're happy to announce a framework agreement between the sovereign government of Lebanon and of course the government of Israel, with a mediation and support of the United States of America that begins to put in place a framework for lasting peace and security. And that's what these two nations deserve. The people of Lebanon have suffered tremendously now for decades as a result of outside interference in their affairs, of countries trying to use the country as a launch pad for attacks. And this is not what the people of Lebanon want, and that's not what they deserve. What they deserve to have is what they once had, and of which there is recent history of, and that is a prosperous and peaceful country. A diverse country where people of different backgrounds were able to live and coexist side by side, and in many ways was the envy of the region and of the world. And it will take a lot of work and some time to get back to that point. But we believe today is the first step in that journey. And the first step is sometimes the hardest step, but it's the one we're taking together today. Obviously, the people of Israel deserve to live in peace and security. The people of northern Israel in particular, who have been targeted repeatedly by terrorist attacks launched from the territory of Lebanon, but not by the Lebanese people, not by the Lebanese government, but by an outside actor who has sought to use that territory to target innocent civilians who have been unable to live in these places for a long time. Every time a siren goes off, you have to stop your schoolwork, you have to wake up, you have to stop going to work, and you have to run into a bunker or a basement and protect yourself. So as I said today, as I told all the parties here today, it's the beginning of the beginning. There's a lot of work ahead.
The beginning of the beginning. There is a lot of work ahead. Quite notable remarks there from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, similar to what the U.S. and Iran are going through right now as well, and in what is the beginning of kind of ceasefire conversations here. So we will monitor that side of things, guys. I want to note as you join us, we have an entire show planned for you. It's a big show, to be honest with you, because there is a lot of news. We do want to get you though to the latest that we are learning, where things stand right now with the war in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump already reacting to what has been multiple reports confirming that an Iranian drone has struck a cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz just off the coast of Oman. So this was breaking just before we came on the air. I want to bring you right now to a live look at the Strait of Hormuz, where we are again learning that Iran's Revolutionary Guards attacked a Singapore-flagged commercial vessel in the Strait of Hormuz with a drone. This happened yesterday evening. It damaged the ship's bridge after striking it on the starboard side off the coast of Oman, with a U.S. official confirming Iran was behind the attack. Now, no casualties have been reported, and the vessel ultimately resumed transit with crew and cargo unharmed. That is a good thing to hear for the crew there. The United Nations International Maritime Organization immediately paused its large-scale evacuation plan, which had been launched just days earlier to help thousands of stranded mariners exit the region, saying it needed to, quote, reconfirm that the necessary safety guarantees continue to be in place, unquote. The attack came hours after Iran's Revolutionary Guard warned that ships must coordinate with its navy and travel through a designated route through Iranian waters, directly challenging the Trump administration's claims that, well, the strait is fully open. Take a listen to the president earlier this week on where things stand with Iran.
We're doing great in our negotiations with Iran. Right in the middle of one of the key things, which we're going to get anyway, we have breaking news. The Senate has voted that they'd like Trump to stop the war. So Iran sees that and they go, what's that all about? Now, you know it's meaningless, right? But I had lunch with them. We had 4 Republican senators and all Democrats. You know, Democrats, they want to lose the war because they're stupid. That's why we call them Democrats, you know? I no longer use the E. I've changed the E into a U. We call them Democrats. They're dumb. Their policy is so bad. That's why they have to. They are opposed to the Save America Act because they don't want voter ID. They don't want proof of citizenship. You know why? Because they have to cheat. Their policy is so bad that if they don't cheat, they wouldn't win an election. They're phenomenal cheaters, and they stick together. But you know, the people, the Democrat people, are 87% in favor of the Save America Act.
Yeah, quite interesting. There was a question there that turned kind of a rant on what he now has called the Democrats Democrats, saying that they need to pass the Save America Act. Of course, that goes back to a story that we covered for yesterday on all the Capitol Hill drama, and we're going to get to that a little later in the show there. So President Trump saying things are going very well, continuing the claims that Iran is, quote, begging for a deal. The president reacting this morning to the fact that Iran reportedly using a drone to strike a cargo ship in the Hormuz Strait, saying, quote, the Islamic Republic of Iran shot at least 4 one-way attack drones at ships traversing the Strait of Hormuz. One of the drones solidly hit the upper deck of a large and very expensive cargo carrying ship. Damage was done, but the ship was able to proceed on its way. We knocked down 3 other drones. Obviously, this is a foolish violation of our ceasefire agreement. So again, the president saying it's a foolish violation there. It's going to be something that we are now going to monitor. Now, as of this morning, Iran has turned back these additional foreign tankers, has 3 additional foreign tankers, I should say, after they attempted what Tehran called, quote, unauthorized passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Let's take you back to that live look that we have of the Strait of Hormuz. And direct peace talks between the U.S. and Iran now are not expected to resume until next week at the earliest. Vice President Vance earlier this week, take a listen here. This is him on Conversations and where things stand. Take a listen.
Yesterday is when you guys what we told the Iranians yesterday is when you guys engage in what us millennials might call trash talk, you can't expect the President of the United States not to respond and not to correct the record. So when they say things that aren't true, the President is going to respond to it. I'm going to respond to it. Americans are going to respond to it. When they make threats that aren't rooted in reality, they have to accept that the President of the United States is actually going to set the record straight. That's all that happened. So yes, there was a little bit of threatening, there was a little bit of whining, but at the end of the day, the talks continued and we made great progress.
Nuclear inspectors, when do you expect them to be welcomed into Iran? Is there a time frame that you guys are looking at? And also in terms of when we could see this entire conflict end, do you think this can end by the midterm elections?
Well, look, right now the conflict is in a ceasefire, and certainly our hope is that we get to the final deal and a permanent settlement. But right now, I think we've made great progress, and we should all celebrate that. In terms of when the nuclear inspectors are going to start, it's funny, we were trying to call some of the inspectors last night around 2 in the morning. As you can expect, not many people were answering their phone at 2 in the morning. I expect that will happen at the minimum this week, but we think even some of those conversations with the inspectors and with the IAEA could happen as soon as today, but I haven't checked in with our team since we made that 2 a.m. phone call to some of those inspectors. Sorry.
Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
So again, that's the vice president there talking about where things stand with Iran. Again, a 60 days is what was within this memorandum of understanding. 60 days to discuss the future of this war, the future of a ceasefire, and the future of it, and end to this war. So it is going to be something to watch here. Again, Vice President J.D. Vance earlier this week in Switzerland. Again, talks not set to continue until next week. So we will be monitoring that. And now to this, a massive search and rescue operation continuing in Venezuela this morning into the afternoon. As you can see, they're live after more than 36 hours after the devastating twin earthquakes. The civilians and emergency workers are now at a race against time to find those still trapped beneath the rubble of crumbled buildings. At least 589 people are now confirmed dead. More than 2,000 others injured, with the death toll expected to continue rising as rescue teams reach more damaged areas. The U.S. Geological Service has warned the final death toll could reach into the thousands and possibly exceed 10,000, given the extensive structural damage now left across the country. In one remarkable moment overnight in LaGuardia, volunteers working without specialized machinery heard a baby crying inside a collapsed building and dug through the rubble with their bare hands, pulling out an infant child who appeared to be unharmed. Now, the U.S. has said they will deploy the USS Fort Lauderdale and the USS Billings, along with C-17 and C-130 transport aircrafts, elite rescue teams, and $150 million in aid, with the senior Southern Command General confirming and that he is already on the ground in Caracas coordinating the relief effort. Pope Leo has also sent an initial $100,000 emergency donation, with more aid pledge to follow there. And you can just see the rubble left as you see just what is a devastating scene left there in Caracas, Venezuela. So devastating just to see there. Take a listen to this. This is an American tourist recounting the moment and what has been deemed as kind of this intense and violent moment that 2 above 7.0 magnitude earthquakes destroyed the region.
Happened all of a sudden. Something wasn't right with my phone recording because it started to shake. And then I felt the ground shaking a little bit, and then just mass panic. Like everyone was just bolting the door. And I just followed everyone. Like I ran out of the door, out into the open. We were disconnected. We couldn't reach anyone, couldn't call emergency services or look at the internet to see what was going on. We didn't know the magnitude of the earthquake. And that moments later, there would be a second earthquake, even stronger. You know, after about 45 minutes have passed, it just didn't feel like anything was gonna happen. So just decided to start walking down at that point from the top of the mountain. Within the first 5 minutes, it was panic, of course. Everyone was just confused. And then Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of like children, families, a lot of people like crying. It, you can really feel the sense of community afterwards. People just wanted to help each other, asking if everyone's all right, if they needed any food, water. It's just all coming together so fast for me. It was like a blur, but because the whole thing lasted less than a minute, but it was quite intense and violent. Um, so the only thing I can wish for now is that the people on the ground are going to be okay, and that they can find more survivors as the days and weeks come.
Just devastating to hear about. The death toll, at least according, as I just mentioned a few moments ago, according to the U.S. Geological Service, could rise into the thousands. Just devastating to hear, and continuing to see the devastation left there. Alrighty, still to come right now on Brookland News Live, a developing story from Capitol Hill. Bill Cassidy now speaking out after that an apparent screaming match with the president. We have that interview coming up for you in just a few moments when Brookland News Live returns. And welcome back. Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy is now opening up about his, well, now infamous shouting match with President Trump at a closed-door Republican Senate lunch on Wednesday, saying he, quote, won't be bullied into silence. The confrontation began when Cassidy stood up and told Trump directly, quote, you have not told the American people what's going on. It was supposed to last 4 weeks. It's lasted 4 months. Our original objectives have not been achieved, and I want to know what's going on, unquote. Take a look at a new interview with Face the Nation that the senator is now speaking out.
Senator, As I understand it, the Vice President and Special Envoy Witkoff gave you a special briefing in the Situation Room late Wednesday on Iran. What you heard made you change your vote. Why are you no longer trying to stop the president from resuming strikes in Iran?
That actually was not my original rationale for voting for the War Powers Act. My original rationale was because we were not being briefed. We could be the Senate, the Congress, or the United States. And I felt it important that we be briefed.
That he backed down by giving you that briefing? I mean, isn't sharing information just a basic expectation that lawmakers like yourself should have fulfilled? Like, why does it take a shouting match?
Let's back up a little bit, if we may. I'm a doctor. I am going to try and get as much information as possible to come to the truth of someone's diagnosis and the truth of how to treat that problem. As much information as possible. You deny me that information, and I'm going to be frustrated because my job is to serve with the information I have before me. By the way, I take that same ethic to public service. Our society has problems. What is the truth behind the cause of that problem? What is the truth about how to solve it? If you're not telling me answers, I'm going to push for those answers. So when the president was berating the 4 people that voted for the War Powers Act, frankly, I'm not there to be berated. And the president wasn't invited to dish out verbal abuse.
But that's what he did.
I raised my hand. I said, Mr. President, do you just want, is that a rhetorical question that you're asking why do we vote for it? Or are you really interested? He goes, I'm really interested. I stood up and I said, this is why. And I listed those objectives that I did not see being achieved and how the kind of endpoint of the war kept stretching out longer and longer. He began to speak over me. Unfortunately, I raised my volume to match his, and we spoke to each other like that. Or shall we say, spoke at each other, not to each other. Now, I shouldn't have lost my temper, nor should he. But, you know, my wife will tell you, every now and then my Irish temper gets the best of me. But point being, I needed to know. I need to know to serve my people in my state and my country. As it turns out, I got a briefing afterwards. In one sense, I actually accomplished the mission of what I needed to do.
Yeah, so both a furious Trump and a furious Bill Cassidy after that moment ended up in a shouting match. President Trump started yelling at Cassidy in front of the entire Senate Republican conference. Cassidy started yelling back, as you just heard him say there, matching the president's tone and volume. Trump then got personal, insulting Cassidy over his primary election loss, calling him a, quote, lunatic, and ordering him to sit down. Cassidy refused until fellow senator pulled him back into his seat. But the twist here, Cassidy quietly slipped a note to Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff during the lunch, saying he would consider changing his Iran war powers vote if he received a proper briefing. He got one in the White House Situation Room with Vice President Vance and Witkoff and changed his vote hours later. Quote, I accomplished my mission, Cassidy said. So such an interesting story there from Capitol Hill. It was a story that we were following back yesterday. We brought you, it all was breaking on Wednesday in what was kind of this big debacle between President Trump when he appeared at a Senate lunch, and then it went from there. And it was all just something to watch play out. And of course, I wish there was cameras inside that room during that lunch. It would have been interesting to see this shouting match in person. Alrighty, we've got some more breaking news in this hour. We are learning that former National Security Advisor John Bolton has pled guilty to one charge, I should say. Now, Bolton, he served under President Trump in his first term before becoming one of his fiercest critics. He, again, just we're learning this morning, pleaded guilty in federal court in Greenbelt, Maryland to 1 count of unlawful retention of national defense information. Bolton, who was originally charged with 18 counts, admitted to sharing more than 1,000 pages of sensitive White House notes with 2 family members, including information classified as high as top secret. This came via text messages and an AOL email account. Now, when Judge Theodore Trong asked if he was guilty, Bolton replied, quote, I am, Your Honor, and I'm sorry about it. Take a look to the prosecution, the U.S. attorney speaking out after the guilty plea by Bolton. Take a listen.
classified and national defense information apply equally to everyone, regardless of position and regardless of how long you have served with the United States government. As National Security Advisor to the President of the United States, Mr. Bolton had access to and was responsible for safeguarding the most sensitive national defense information, including classified material. Mr. Bolton knew how to handle classified information, where it should be stored, how it should be stored, and with whom he could share that information. He also knew the damage to national security that could be caused by mishandling that sensitive information. Nevertheless, as Mr. Bolton just admitted, he put our national security at grave risk in violation of the law.
Alrighty there, so you hear Bolton's attorney speaking out after, excuse me, I should rephrase that. This is the U.S. attorney, this is the prosecution in this case, speaking out after this ruling. Now, we are also getting in a statement from Bolton's attorney. This is Abby Lowell speaking out on all of this. Let's take a look at the statement full screen for you, which reads, quote, "Today, Ambassador Bolton did what real leaders do. He took responsibility for a mistake he made, thereby saving the government resources to pursue a case that could expose additional sensitive information. By contrast, President Trump thumbed his nose at classified information laws, took actual classified documents to his Florida mansion, interfered with the investigation of that conduct, and has never accepted any accountability for his conduct. Ambassador Bolton, whose offense was only keeping a diary which contained classified information, kept a record to preserve history, but Donald Trump kept secrets to serve himself." There you go. That is, again, a statement from Ambassador Bolton's attorney there, speaking out after this guilty plea earlier today in court. Alrighty, and now to this. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, who stunned the political world last year by defeating Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic mayoral primary, is flexing his political muscle again, this time on, well, the national stage. All three of his endorsed congressional candidates won their Democratic primaries in New York this week. Excuse me, I need a drink of water. Excuse me. All won their Democratic primaries in New York this week, including the night's biggest upset. 32-year-old community organizer and Democratic socialist Daria Lee Zavi. I'm not sure how to pronounce this last name. I'm going to try one time here. It is Daria Lee Zaavila Chevalier. I don't know. Who narrowly defeated five-term incumbent Adriana Espaillat, the chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus in Upper Manhattan's 13th District. Former New York City Comptroller Brad Lander also toppled incumbent Representative Dan Goldman in the 10th District, capturing about 2/3 of the vote, and State Assembly Claire Valdez won the open 7th District over Brookland Borough President Antonio Reynoso, who had the backing of outgoing Representative Nydia Velazquez and Working Families Party leaders. Mamdani declared at a victory party called "We Are Showing that last June, a year ago tomorrow, was not an anomaly. It was not the end. It was the beginning," unquote. But Republicans are already celebrating too. House Speaker Mike Johnson called the results, quote, "a dangerous thing," while Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman predicted moderate Democrats and Jewish voters turned off by Mamdani slate's anti-Israel rhetoric will cross party lines in November, setting up a fascinating midterm battle. So an interesting story there that we are going to continue following. Of course, we brought this to you earlier in the week. How could Mamdani's endorsement play in the New York election? Now we're seeing all of his candidates winning there, and I apologize about the wrong lower third for the graphic there, but again, major sweeps in those races. Another quick break right here on Brookland News Live. When we come back, a new book revealing what exactly went on with President Trump's health in this second term, new concerns there. all as we are getting major rulings in the assassination case against Charlie Kirk. The judge there holding a hearing. We'll bring you those rulings and more coming up right here on Brooklyn News Live. Stick with us. Welcome back into Brookland News Live. Time now 2:33. We're still with you, and we have just gotten in some breaking news out of Texas. We are learning right now the Texas State Board of Education has approved, well, a major curriculum change that will require biblical text and stories in classrooms across the state. This will impact more than 5 million students. This all is set to begin in 2030. Now, the new proposal will mandate specific Bible passages and literary adaptations of biblical stories for every grade level. This goes from David and Goliath in elementary school to passages from the book of Psalms for sixth graders. Now, Texas joins a national conservative push to infuse Christian teachings into American classrooms. Now, supporters say the Bible should be studied as an essential literary and historical text that helps students understand the founding of the United States. But opponents here argue that the required reading list favors Christianity over other religions and violates the constitutional separation between church and state. Now, the proposal has divided teachers, parents, and community members, as you could expect, with hundreds appearing before the school board this week to voice their concerns and support. Some Christian board members have also opposed the changes, saying religious education should happen at home and in churches, not in public schools. Again, that is a breaking story just coming into us. The Texas School Board now voting to mandate Bible curriculum now be taught in public schools. So again, pretty big news there, and what is likely to be several lawsuits that follow that. I would not be surprised for it to either make it to the Texas Supreme Court, if not above that. So that is going to be a story that we are going to be keeping our eyes peeled on in the next coming weeks, and of course before 2030. So quite a few years until this is set to go into place. Alrighty, a bombshell new book by the New York Times now revealing some new information about President Donald Trump. This new book by New York Times White House correspondents Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan, titled, quote, Regime Change Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump, is revealing previously unknown details about President Trump's private health struggles. Now, according to the book, the 80-year-old president has been having trouble hearing, asking people to repeat questions they had just asked, and has been caught, well, falling asleep during meetings at the White House and in the middle of high-stakes summits. Joint press conferences with foreign leaders were reportedly moved from the East Room to the Oval Office, in part because, well, the acoustics were better, and Trump did not have to stand for an hour. The book also reveals that Trump's aides began privately saying, for the first time, that he was beginning to seem old. Take a look at this quote directly from the book. It reads, quote, those who spent time with him could see the signs, the moments of fatigue, the cupped hand behind the ear. Whatever thin verbal filter he had in the past was gone. Some of Trump's aides began saying privately that for the first time he was beginning to seem old. Again, this new book revealing this all. His longtime personal valet, Walt Nauta, is said to carry around makeup, hairspray, and scissors so Trump can cut his own hair when it gets too long in the back. Not only that, Haberman and Swan also note that Trump's health has become one of the most tightly controlled secrets in Washington, with even well-connected reporters unable to obtain details beyond White House statements. Quote, illness freaks him out. He preserves White House, he preserves illness as weakness, unquote, Haberman said. The White House has pushed back hard, with spokesman David Ingalls saying, quote, President Trump is the sharpest and most accessible president in American history, working nonstop to solve problems and deliver on his promises. Take a look to the two authors appearing in an interview on CNN the other day.
That we talk about in the book is how aides are aware that he is older. What exactly goes on with Donald Trump's health is one of the mysteries, right, of the last 10 years. And he is very secretive about his health. We also talk about how this is a White House, despite these displays of transparency. They're very good at keeping secrets when they want to. This is always one of them. But he is moving differently. He has the swelling in the ankles, which, you know, he was so irritated about the coverage of, that he had the press secretary go out and talk about. And most people in the White House thought it was a little strange to be going out and talking about cankles, as we write. But he's very, very sensitive about his appearance. The hearing is an issue. They've all been aware of it for a while, and it's been happening for a while. The fact that he just is older. At 80, it is harder to mask it. And so they are all aware of it. What exactly that portends, they don't know. But he is not a young man.
A story we're following closely right here at Brookland News Live. Now to this, a Utah judge today ruled that a prosecutor in the murder case against Tyler Robinson, who is accused of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, violated the court's pretrial publicity gag order by speaking to the media about the case and will be held in contempt of court. Deputy Utah County Attorney Christopher Ballard was found to have gone, well, too far. And at least one interviewer, Judge Tony Graff, said he improperly expressed confidence in the totality of the evidence against Robinson, essentially sharing an opinion about the courtroom. However, and this is the big win for the prosecutors, got to note that there, Judge Graff declined to sanction the Utah County Attorney's Office by removing the death penalty as an option in the case, which is what Robinson's defense had requested. Graff ruled that striking the death penalty would be, quote, grossly disappropriate to the misconduct and legally unavailable in this civil contempt framework, unquote. The contempt ruling stemmed from Ballard's interview with TMZ, USA Today, PolitiFact and Fox News, which the defense argued amounted to an improper, quote, media tour designed to influence the jury pool after a defense filing about an inconclusive bullet fragment analysis went viral and sparked widespread conspiracy theories that Robinson had been framed. The 5-day preliminary hearing in the case is set to begin July 6th, where prosecutors must show enough evidence exists to bring the case to trial. So a story we're monitoring right here in Brookland News Live, and we'll bring you updates on when we get them in. Now to another big case that we are watching right now, this one out of New York City in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Also another developing story. Sources familiar with the matter telling multiple outlets that attorneys for Luigi Mangione, the 28-year-old Ivy League graduate accused of fatally shooting United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a Midtown Manhattan sidewalk in December back in 2024, discussed a possible plea deal with federal prosecutors ahead of a court hearing scheduled for this upcoming Monday. NBC News reports that an agreement appeared close this week, but has since fallen apart. It is unknown whether there will be a discussion to resume these efforts again. Take a listen to reaction getting in from NBC News. Take a listen.
Not uncommon before a trial, of course, but it comes after Mangione's team said it would seek a psych evaluation here, right? And maybe even a psych defense for him, which they later then withdrew. So what does that tell you about where we are in this case?
One possibility is that Mangione's team may be trying to rush in a plea deal in federal court before the state court case goes to trial. And the reason for that could be a very unique law that New York has. There is a double jeopardy clause in the federal constitution, but New York has its own double jeopardy clause, which is actually broader. And in theory, if Mangione pleaded guilty to the federal case or went to trial, then the successive New York state prosecution could be barred. I say could be because there are exceptions in the statute. And of course, New York state prosecutors would surely try to oppose this.
Okay, so if any plea deal were to be reached in the federal case, what would that mean then for the state case? Because he also faces charges, by the way, in Pennsylvania, right?
That's right. And nothing could possibly happen to those because they're based on totally different transactions or occurrences. So the Pennsylvania case will survive no matter what. But in theory, if Mangione wanted to plead guilty to the federal case, and look, that would carry with it its own stiff penalty, a stiff prison sentence. But if he did, then what his defense would do next is claim that New York's, not the federal, double jeopardy clause prohibits the New York prosecution because it's based on the same criminal transaction. Very interesting if the trials were reversed. If the state case went first, then the federal case would not be barred because New York state law can't possibly affect a federal prosecution.
Yeah, so just a big story that we are watching right here. Mangione's lead attorney, Karen Friedman and Agnifilo, fired back, calling the reports, quote, a troubling, deliberate pattern by prosecutors and law enforcement to prejudice Luigi, manipulate public opinion, and violate his constitutional right to a fair trial. That is, TMZ also cited sources with direct knowledge who say there have been no plea bargain negotiations whatsoever, directly contradicting reports from ABC, NBC, and CBS. The plea talk reports also come after Mangione's attorney raised and then abruptly withdrew the possibility of a psychiatric defense earlier this month, a move that could have reduced the murder charge to manslaughter. The state murder trial is set to begin September 8th, with the federal case expected to follow. If convicted in either case, Mangione could spend the rest of his life in prison. Alrighty, we want to take you to a breaking story that we are following right now. President Donald Trump, he is speaking from the White House, receiving a quote, Religious Liberty Commission report. We want to note that we are monitoring it here right now live on Brookland News Live. If we have some extra time for you, we'll take you there live coming up in just a few moments. In the meantime, we're going to sneak in a quick break. When we come back, this big story from Capitol Hill on Jeffrey Epstein that has just been revealed. Stick with us. Brookland News Live comes back in just a few moments. Alrighty, happening now. Billionaire investor Leon Black, the co-founder and former CEO of private equity giant Apollo Global Management, is appearing before the House Oversight Committee today in a closed-door deposition. He is the 16th high-profile figure to sit for questioning as part of Congress's sweeping investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and the powerful people that were inside his orbit. Other witnesses have included former President Bill Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, former AG Pam Bondi, and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, who testified earlier this month that he made, quote, a grave error in judgment by meeting with Epstein. Now, in his opening remarks, Black flatly denied any criminal wrongdoing, saying, quote, let me state unequivocally that I have never abused a woman. I have never been with an underage woman. I have never engaged in sex trafficking. I have never paid Epstein for access to women. I was never blackmailed by Epstein, unquote. Black said the $158 million he paid Epstein between 2012 and 2017 was for legitimate tax estate planning and financial advice, and that he was completely deceived about Epstein's crimes. And one of the most memorable lines of the day, Black told lawmakers, quote, I knew Jaquil. I didn't know Hyde. End quote. However, House Oversight Chairman James Comer told reporters ahead of the deposition that it has, quote, the potential to be the most groundbreaking of all depositions. Let's take a listen here. First, we have, and I'll just note as we listen into these people, it's going to be Republican James Comer, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, then the Democratic ranking member in the Oversight Committee, and then we're going to listen in lastly here to the attorney for Leon Black, all speaking. This is after the first hour of the hearing. Take a listen.
I have just issued 2 subpoenas to Mr. Black, one for all the NDAs that he is party to, and second for a deposition on July 16th. So this is a result of refusing to answer specific questions about the NDAs and the terms. We believe that information is vital to our investigation. I will remind everyone that Mr. Black came in voluntarily, but they are refusing to disclose that, so I have issued the subpoena.
I just want to add that I actually want to say I completely support Chairman Comer's decision here. I think that Mr. Black is not answering questions about the NDAs. The NDAs are central to us understanding what actually happened. There are real accusations and there are survivors who have accused Mr. Black of horrific things. He gave Jeffrey Epstein approximately $150 million. We still do not know for what. And so to issue subpoenas for those NDAs and the documents, and also for Mr. Black to appear under oath, answering questions and on video, is incredibly important.
They made a premeditated political decision to serve him with subpoenas after less than an hour of questioning and before they even asked a single question about his legitimate payments to Epstein. This was nothing more than a planned political stunt. Mr. Epstein had no involvement with any NDAs, whether they exist or not.
Yeah, so a story that we are going to continue to follow. We know that that was at the end of the first hour. We assume at this point in time that it could have wrapped up. We don't quite know. But again, lawmakers saying, both Democrats and Republicans, they are saying that they support the subpoena. He at first is testifying voluntarily, but again, you hear the accusations that he is not fully answering questions, at least to the extent that both the Republican leadership and the Democratic leadership of the House Oversight Committee believe he should have answered those questions. So it's a story that we will keep our eyes on. I'll take a look at this photo right here. This shows you a massage parlor owner who was arrested out of Jonesboro. Jonesboro police say with the help of Homeland Security investigations, the U.S. Marshals, Jonesboro SWAT, ASU PD, and victim advocacy groups, Hope Found, and the Family Crisis Center, they were able to raid Tree Massage at 5510 Southwest Drive yesterday after a 4-month investigation that began with the complaint to the FBI back in February. Now, the original complaint told police that a massager repeatedly touched inappropriate parts of her body. After being told to stop, burned her with hot rocks she never requested, and then demanded a tip and became hostile when she did not provide one. Surveillance revealed the business operated 7 days a week with extended hours, that employees were also living on the premises, and that in April, a known subject entered the business and stayed for approximately 1 hour, later confirming to investigators that the parlor offered what he described as, quote, additional services for compensation and tips. The owner, Nay Lee, has been booked into the Craighead County Detention Center on a charge of second-degree promoting prostitution. The case is still under investigation, meaning more arrests could be coming. We're going to keep our eyes on it for you. Okay, we do want to take you right now live out to the camera in Brooklyn for you. Let's get you out to it. This is live at the R.Dot camera right now that we are following in Brooklyn, as the Brooklyn Police Department is now warning drivers that they will be partnering with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration ahead of the 4th of July in an act to remind drivers that buzz driving is drunk driving, and that impaired driving is never an option. Quote, impaired driving is never acceptable. For some people, even one drink is too many to drive safely. While everyone is making plans with friends and family for 4th of July festivities, it is crucial to also make plans for a sober ride home, unquote, said Brooklyn Police Chief Moore. The warning comes with sobering statistic. Excuse me. We're gonna get the story out of the way here. In 2024, 579 people were killed in traffic crashes during the 4th of July holiday period alone. From 2020 to 2024, 38% of drivers killed in crashes during the holiday were drunk. If you plan to drink this 4th of July, Brooklyn police are asking you to plan your ride before you take that first sip. Designate a driver, call a taxi, or use a rideshare app. If you see a drunk driver on the road, call local law enforcement immediately. You see traffic not too bad at all right now. As we take a look at that camera, we're going to bring your forecast coming up here in just a few moments, so stick with us for that. That is still to come right here on Brooklyn News Live. Plus, a brand new segment we brought to you on Monday. What's next? What was and what's next, I should say. That is coming up right here on Brooklyn News Live, and we are continuing to monitor President Donald Trump right now at the White House when he begins taking questions from the press, and if he does, we'll bring you there live, coming up right here on Brooklyn News Live. Stick with us, you guys. Alrighty, welcome back here on the Brooklyn News Live. Like we said, as soon as we knew the president would take questions, we're going to take you there live. He is taking questions right now from the White House. Let's listen in.
And Todd and Vince and everybody for Paula, always Paula, because she's been here from the beginning. We have a White House office now on faith. Nobody thought that was going to happen. Never happened before.
How will the findings of this commission change how the government operates going forward?
Well, we're going to sell it. We're going to sell some of the things that we have. We have some incredible recommendations. but a recommendation doesn't mean anything. This group can sell, and that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to bring religion back even stronger. You know, religion's made it, it's been a tremendous resurgence in our country. I have not seen anything like it. I hate to joke, but if this were stock, it'd be very rich because it has gone up like a rocket ship over the last year and a half. And I'm very honored to be sitting here. Maybe I had something to do with it. But they've made some very strong recommendations, and now we have to convince people to adhere by those regulations. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, press. Thank you, guys. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, press. Keep moving, please. Thank you, press. Thank you,
Alrighty,
guys.
there we go. You see them trying to rush the press out. Looks like we only got to listen in there for just a few moments to President Trump there live from the White House as he took questions from reporters. We're going to sneak in a quick break. When we come back, we've got your forecasts coming up. Stick with us. You're watching Brookland News Live. Alrighty, a live look right now in Brooklyn as I just noted a few moments ago, traffic moving smoothly there on Highway 49 at School Street as we continue to take a look at that camera. There is a possibility for, well, some severe weather today that we are monitoring. We'll get to the risk there as we go into tonight. Scattered thunderstorms could continue, a low of 77. Things remain hot as we go into the weekend. By Saturday, scattered thunderstorms again and a possibility of some severe weather. High of 89, low of 77. On Sunday, a high of 94 and low of 77. The possibility of severe weather is gone, but then we could see some heat. As we go into tonight and into the remainder of today, there is a 1 out of 5 chance for some storms there. You see Jonesboro and Brookland there, 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Again, scattered thunderstorms throughout the region. We're going to take a look at that. Then by Saturday, we're expecting even more storms. This still a level 1 out of 5 risk. It's going to be something to watch. This is going to be Saturday afternoon into the evening. We are monitoring it. Scattered thunderstorms, again, follow there. And as I noted just a few moments ago, after Sunday, heat expected to get to us on Monday. Summer heat, heat index values could be between 105 to 109 degrees on Monday. So here we go. We are in full spring of summer, it feels like, now that we have passed June 21st. We're going to be following it all for you. Alrighty, it is time for a brand new segment we are launching right here on Brooklyn News Live. It is time for Brooklyn News Live we'll get it right for you this time. It is time for what was and what is next. You take a look there at a slideshow that we worked to put together, or we wrap up what all was the big stories of this week and what to watch coming up in the next few days. We'll start with this week and the big stories that broke over the week, which was, take a look there. Deal or no deal. This week, the U.S. and Iran signed a memorandum of understanding, setting a 60-day clock for peace talks, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and establishing working groups on nuclear issues and sanctions. Vice President Vance traveled to Switzerland. We played some video for that for you earlier in the show to sit face-to-face with Iranian officials, but Trump threatened to hit Iran, quote, very hard again, while Vance was literally in the room negotiating, and both sides publicly disputed over over whether Iran agreed to nuclear inspectors to enter the country. Lebanon remains the live wire that could blow up the whole deal. Both sides have 60 days to reach a final agreement on the nuclear question. Watch for whether the Lebanon ceasefire holds here. Of course, we know an agreement was signed today because at this point in time, Iran has made it clear, no peace in Lebanon, no deal. Plus, Trump wins big this week out of the Supreme Court. Take a look here. Trump winning big in the Supreme Court with 2 blockbuster 6-3 immigration wins. Let me keep going here. 2 big immigration wins ruling that migrants standing on Mexican soil cannot claim asylum under U.S. law, and allowing the administration to strip temporary protected status from hundreds of thousands of Haitian and Syrian immigrants. More major rulings are still on the way here, expected to come Monday, including on birthright citizenship and transgender athletes. The court has not yet announced its final opinion day. I should say they since have announced their final opinion day. Since writing this, it's going to be on Monday. So more big decisions could drop on Monday. We expect all of them to unload on us. We'll be back here on Monday at 2 p.m. The immigration rulings will also face immediate implementation challenges on the ground at the southern border. Now to this. Earth says no. 2 powerful earthquakes, a 7.2 and a 7.5, struck Venezuela this week, less than a minute apart, killing at least 188 people. That number has since gone up and could rise into the thousands. Thousands still trapped, said to be missing, thousands as well injured. It was the strongest earthquake to hit the country in more than 125 years. Caracas and the state of La Guaira were hardest hit, with the international airport shut down there. It's a story that happened this week that we are continuing to keep our eyes peeled on. And not that kind, we just brought you this story right here at home. Jonesboro police, with the help of Homeland Security, U.S. Marshals, and several other officials, raided Tree Massage on Southwest Drive yesterday after a months-long investigation that began with a complaint to the FBI in February. The owner was taken into custody and faces a charge of second-degree promoting prostitution and will be booked into the Crockett County Detention Center. The case is still under investigation. What that means here, more arrests could be coming. Victim advocacy groups Hope Found and the Family Crisis Center were on scene today to assist, suggesting investigators may also be looking into potential human trafficking angles as this case develops. Alrighty, and as we dig into kind of what's next, what to watch over the weekend, Street Talk this weekend. All eyes are on the Strait of Hormuz and the fragile Iran peace process. Iran now announcing a pause on peace talks and has threatened to completely block the Strait of Hormuz and completely close the Strait of Hormuz, ruling out any further talks until Israel ends its military operations in Lebanon and Gaza. With the 60-day negotiating clock already ticking and both sides still publicly disputing what they agreed to, this weekend could be a defining moment for the entire peace process if the strait closes again. So it's going to be something to watch here. Did not mean to put that timer on the screen for you guys. That is my bad. I was still learning things here. It's kind of like a slideshow that we're putting together. Also apologize for the noise that you're hearing in the background. Also to watch this weekend, score or go home, the FIFA World Cup wrapping up this weekend, and stakes cannot be higher for the U.S. men's national team, which is fighting to advance to the knockout round on home soil. Saturday and Sunday feature wall-to-wall matches. It's the final group stage. Games are played simultaneously, meaning we could see dramatic last-minute swings in standings across multiple groups at the same time. All matches will air on Fox and FS1, with select games streaming free on Tubi. This is the last chance for teams to secure their spot, and for the U.S., there is no tomorrow if they don't get the job done. Alrighty, as you watch us here right now, we will be right back here on Monday for what was and what's next. We'll be wrapping up all of your big headlines that matter most to all of you. Again, I apologize for the noise in the background. Again, stick with us for what was and what's next on Monday. Brookland News Live will be back tomorrow, so make sure you also join us then. 2 p.m. tomorrow, we are back here. I meant Monday, 2 p.m. Monday. We're back here with all of the big headlines that matter the most to you, all of those big stories. We're watching the Iran war very closely. Also to watch, we got this Israel-Lebanon supposed conversations going on to end this war. Will it actually work? It's the same question that we're asking with the Iran situation. We're going to monitor, of course, over the weekend, 4th of July, what's going on there. We're going to bring you coverage of America's 250th birthday coming up next week. Stick with us for that. And I want to thank all of you for following us this week. We will see you all back here on Monday at 2 p.m. Let's show you our screen here that we do every day. Weekdays, 2 p.m. We'll see you back here on Monday. We're also going to be getting, an unloading of Supreme Court opinions, major Supreme Court opinions. We're likely going to focus a lot of our hour on that. Stick with us for that. Thank you for watching us in the meantime, though, and stay safe over the weekend. Have a good time, you guys. We'll see you back here on Monday.